John Eno.
I hope you've got the money.
Mr. President, my name is John Owen Eno, Cross River Central. Madam Nominee, my first question is, a few weeks ago, JP Morgan delisted some of the federal government's bonds. Are you satisfied with the case made by JP Morgan? Are you satisfied with a combination of monetary fiscal policies that the CBN is pursuing in this regard to be able to respond to this? That's number one. Number two, you've spoken about the need to expand the tax base, revenue base, all that. Earlier on in the day, the former governor of Lagos State came here and talked about, when he became governor, how many more people were brought onto the tax net, about 5 million, and says there's a balance of about another 5 million. How challenging really is it to expand the tax base as a major source of expanding the revenue base for the country? The last question has to do with AMCON. As a financial expert, I'm sure you saw through the process of the setting up of AMCON. A few days ago in the House of Reps, AMCON came under hammer in terms of how it's conducted, in terms of how its deep involvement in toxic assets and all that. What do you think is the problem of AMCON today as it is? And what would be your advice going forward? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Chair. I'm Senator Abdullahi Adamu, representing Nasarawa West Senatorial District. The right honorable nominee, over the last 25 to 30 years, from the mid-80s of the 20th century to date, there has been pressure from different directions on Nigeria to formally devalue its currency. Given the type of economy we have, a one-line revenue-based economy that you've just told us or reminded us that it's a huge consuming economy, what is there for us to consider whether or not we accept to devalue our currency? In other words, what is the advantage or disadvantage of such a step if we are to contemplate it at all? My second question, the financing regime of our economy is such that does not accommodate other potential areas or sectors of growing our economy, diversifying our economy, either than the oil and gas and those who are into trading in consumptive items into the country. Other areas that hold great potential like agriculture and solid minerals do not appear to enjoy any reception from our banking institutions. What, as a finance major, what is your attitude to this, and in what way would you address the issues if and when you are confirmed as a Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Thank you.
You want to take this next question?
Thank you, distinguished senators, for those questions. The question about unemployment, I think, is probably the most important question that we're all facing today. And the rate of our population growth, or the projections of our population growth, are such that we have to get a grip of the unemployment challenge, because otherwise there'll be very serious social consequences. In my own view, the best way to achieve this is by growing the economy. And understanding that there are two solutions to unemployment. One is a job, and the other is entrepreneurship. And we need to focus on both. I'll first of all speak about jobs. Jobs will be created when the economy grows, and all those things I discussed about growing infrastructure, improving the ease of doing business will create jobs and opportunities for our people. But beyond that, there is entrepreneurship. I think one of the biggest assets we have in Nigeria is actually the entrepreneurial spirit of our people. Our people just see opportunities everywhere. We're resilient, we're hardy. I think that's something we need to capitalize on. I think that's something we need to support. In particular, women in entrepreneurship. In America, when they've done the analysis of their recovery has been at small business level and it's been women driven. So we need to find ways to actually unlock that and support that so that the economy can grow. I think the challenges are going to be in funding. We need to bring down our interest rates. That's absolutely critical. Whether for entrepreneurship or job creation, the interest rates have to come down. They're far too high. At the moment, I believe people are borrowing north of 20%. In South Africa, it's about 9%. In Algeria, it's 8%. So unless you're in an illicit business, it's very difficult to make a profit and pay that kind of rate of interest. And the biggest driver of the interest rate is government borrowing. So we also, as government, need to look at our role in driving up the interest rate and see how we can help to bring down interest rates by looking at other sources of funding or other denominations of funding. You asked about zero-based budgeting and how relevant it was. With the deficit that we're facing on the fiscal side, we have to reconsider everything. What zero-based budgeting simply does is start from scratch. So every single line of the budget has to be justified from scratch. Whereas what we do at the moment is incremental budgeting. We just look at what we did last year and we either cut it or we increase it. And so, of course, there's a lot of inherent inefficiency that just gets carried over. So zero-based budgeting will be an amazing tool to use. The only problem with zero-based budgeting is extremely complex and it needs a lot of time. So I think in practical terms, what we'd probably need to do is, what I would consider is, or suggest, is that you start zero-based budgeting with your revenue-generating agencies, because that will help you to produce a surplus, and then you roll it out successively with other ministries. And it involves a lot of price testing, and it really involves questioning everything. And the answer to why does it cost this much cannot be that's what we paid last year. We go out, we price test, we benchmark. It's a process I've been involved in the UK, and it does deliver significant savings. So I think it's something we ought to look at embracing. Efficiency and cost reduction are absolutely critical and I don't think it needs to create unemployment necessarily. I think we just need to be far more conscious that the money just isn't there to be wasted. Chase out waste, chase out frivolous spending, chase out duplication, and you can actually deliver cost savings. You don't necessarily have to begin to sack people. Senator McCarthy's question, I think, was on waivers and concessions. Did I get the question right? I think we need to review the use of waivers and concessions in its entirety. And I think the whole hygiene and process around it needs to be revised. And I'm very sure it's something that is very high on the list of initiatives for the administration. Waivers, there must be a business case for a waiver. And there must be review of the waivers, and there must be constant, and there must be transparency around who has been granted waivers and for what reason.
Order, please.
There were two questions on foreign exchange. I think, if you don't mind, I'll try and merge them together about the exchange rate. We've just suffered an oil shock, and as a result of which we have devalued. Now, we're not the only economy to have devalued. Russia devalued, Venezuela devalued. All the oil economies have come under pressure with their currency. The problem is that markets tend to overreact. So if you leave the market to sort something out, the market will overreact. So what the CBN governor has done is just brought in some breathing space. Because if we allowed the market to continue, all our reserves would have been depleted. What we need to do is to strategize. And the solution will not just be exchange rate. Exchange rate is not a silver bullet. It's not a wonder drug. It has to be accompanied with fiscal policies and monetary policies and industrial policies. So, for example, I'm jumping back to the unemployment question. We need to increase made in Nigeria. Even me, we all need to buy made in Nigeria, eat made in Nigeria, drink made in Nigeria, as far as possible.